Okay, so here we are in Inkscape, and the reason for this is we are going to prepare this image for machining. The plan is to machine this black area with a 1/4" bit, and then the next plan is to come back here with the 1/8" ball tool and do this embossed tiger. So I'm going to use a flat end mill 1/4" to cut all this black material away first, and then I'm going to come back and cut this embossed thing. So I'm going to use Inkscape to do that. So really quick, we import the image into Inkscape and we line it up. Okay, and the reason for this is it sets this XY location to 0. Alright, then the next step is we want to trace the bitmap. Okay, and move that over. Alright, and then we want to ungroup this vector file. This is a raster file, this is a vector. We have vectorized it. Okay, so the next step is we want to ungroup it and select only the part that we need, which is just the outline of this thing. We only want the outline of it. So then we're going to ungroup that and move it over. Now this is the part that we do need. This is the information we want to extract here, is our outline. The extraneous information that we don't need, we just go ahead and delete that. And then we're going to go ahead and realign this left and bottom. Okay, and then at this point we want to save this, so we're going to save that as a PNG file at this point, and that'll be our raster image that we will give the program information for our depth map of the embossed tiger over here. Okay, so then we can go ahead and delete that. Alright, and we're left with this. This is our vector which we've created. Now we need this because this is going to provide us with the outline so we can cut with our 1/4" tool. So at this point we want to transform this to our exact dimensions what we need, which is 5.5 in height, and I'll zoom that back in for you so you can see it because I reduced the size quite considerably. This is a vector image and I'll show you how. You go to View, Display Mode, Outline. So that's the only information that we're going to save, and we're going to save this outline as a DXF file this time. Okay, so we saved the raster image as a PNG, and now we're saving the vector image as a DXF. Okay, so it's important to understand the two concepts between raster and vector. We need our raster image, which will provide us with our 3D depth map, and that will cut with an 1/8" ball tool. But we need this vector image to provide us with the outline of this tiger, so we can use our 1/4" flat end mill to cut around it. That's the machining strategy that I have decided on to go ahead and cut this piece. Okay, so let me take you through the steps one by one. First, obviously, is we import the file. Okay, now you can't see that because I have the view on displayed mode outline. It is not a vector image, it is a raster image, so I'm going to put it on display mode normal. I like to import these files rather than open them in Inkscape, and then we just line it up. Okay, and to do that I have this on my toolbar on the right. I've set that up. It's a convenient location for me to use. Hit align left edges and align bottom edges. Okay, so then the next step is we want to trace the bitmap. What you do is you go Path, Trace Bitmap. Okay, and that'll bring out this little pop-up screen, and it probably won't have live preview checked, but you may want to check that. So as you can see, there's a bunch of different options here. I chose grays, and I just hit OK and X out of this. Just go ahead and grab this and slide it over just like that. Alright, and you just move it over just like that. Okay. So now the next step is while this is still selected, you want to go Object, Ungroup, and hit the Ungroup button. Now, it's kind of critical that you do this. You want to unselect everything, so you just hit your mouse on a space that's not being used in your drawing, and that'll unselect everything. So now you want to go to this tool that you're using, is your Selector Tool. Just on the left hand side, just under that tool, there's the Edit Paths by Nodes tool, and that looks a little different. You see how that looks? So you want to, on your vector image, you just want to click on, the black space right there, and because we only want to select the outline. Now I'll show you what that did. If I switch to display mode to outline, you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of other information that we don't need, because we only want the outline. Okay, so I'll switch view display mode back to normal. So now you want to go back and jump back to your Selector Tool, your standard Selector Tool. It's the top one. Alright, and then you just want to grab this and move it out of the way. Okay, now by clicking in an area that's not being used, you deselect everything, and the next step would be to basically just draw a little box around this one over here. This is vector information that we don't need, so we're going to delete it. Boom. You've deleted it. So now the next step is to just go ahead and select this again, and align it. We'll go ahead and go back to this, align left edges and align bottom edges, and that's just done like that. And then you just want to center up your image. It's the middle of these three circular things that look, I guess they look like circles to me, but I guess that's supposed to be a magnifying glass. Use the middle one to center everything up. So at this point, we want to save this as a PNG file. Okay, so we save this as our PNG. That we're going to use to, which I showed you in the previous video, to create our tool path, which will emboss this white tiger. Okay, it's going to do the white portion with an 1/8 inch ball tool. Okay, so we save that as a PNG, and then we can select it and delete it. This is the thing that we're going to use to create the 1/4 inch flat end mill, which is going to cut all this black away and leave us with the white, so we can then come back with an 1/8 inch ball tool and cut the tiger. Okay, so there's a reason for me showing you this method, because this is about as easy as it gets, and it's a fairly accurate method to do this. So now if I go ahead and view, display mode, outline, this is our vector information. We need this outline so that we can cut this area out, all the surrounding area around the tiger. We want to use a 1/4 inch tool to cut that. So before we save this, the last step here is to size this appropriately. Now if you remember, our part was 5.5 inches, so we want to set that to 5.5 inches, and we want to lock the width and the height. Okay, locking these two together will give us a proportional scale. So we're going with a height of 5.5 inches, 5.5, and we just hit enter, and that updated the width as well, and you'll notice that the width changed because these are locked together. Okay, so now we'll just fit the screen again so we can see what we're doing. Now after we have scaled the vector, it doesn't matter if you scale the raster, that can be a big size image, that does not matter. And you also notice that everything's in millimeters here. That doesn't matter either, just consider it to be units. You'll have a heck of a time trying to get this program to behave when it comes to inches. If you want to set it to imperial, there's about 5 different settings, and it always wants to default to millimeters anyway, so it's kind of got a mind of its own. Leave it alone. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make. Do not get frustrated over this. It does not matter whatsoever. I set that to 5.5. It says millimeters. You can set it pixels, centimeters, percentage, inches. It doesn't matter where it's set at. Leave it at the default. It'll be happy. But when we bring this in and use it and finally output our code, it will be in inches. So don't worry about it. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make. So now at this point we've scaled it to 5.5. I'm going to call that an inch or a unit or whatever. And it updated our width because we have these locked. Now we can go ahead and export this as a DXF file. We're done. So now the next step is to bring this into our next free program that we're going to use. Okay, so we can close that. Okay, so this is a program that I really like using. It's called F-engrave. This is another one of the Scorchworks programs, which the Scorchworks programs are excellent. Let me tell you, these are some of the best free programs I've ever used. And once again, this is totally free to use. It's a great program. I use it all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up our DXF file, okay, with this program. Alright, because this is going to be our first machining operation. We're going to use the 1/4 inch tool to cut around that thing. So we open up our DXF, and there it is. Now you'll notice it has been sized by Inkscape appropriately. You notice on the bottom of the screen it'll give you the dimensions, okay? And notice our 000 point is set for default. It's important to know where your tool touch-off point is. If you leave it on default, it's going to be whatever you created this DXF file, wherever that 000 point is, on default. When you bring in the DXF into this program, it's going to default to that. Okay, so just so you know, there's a difference between bottom left and default, even though it is at exactly the same location. just so you know, because if I had it at a different location, like let's say I had it out here somewhere and I pressed default, you would see the 00 would be here instead of on the bottom. But since we created it in Inkscape to be on the bottom by that alignment technique, it is here. This is our 00. You always want to be aware of that. Alright, so the trick, let me just cut to the chase with this program, okay? We go to our V Carve settings, alright, and we're not using this for V carving, okay? I'll show you that later if you're interested in seeing it, because it's really cool. But we're not using that for this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trick this program into doing what I want. Okay, so the first thing I want to do with this program is, first of all, I'm going to change this from the default to mid-center. And I'm going to change my feed rate to 60, my plunge to 20, my Z-safe to 0.1. Alright, now I have this set on V Carve. Okay, if you had it set on engrave, it would only do the lines. So it has to be on V Carve for this. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into the settings and select the V Carve settings. Now I have this set to V-bit. We're not going to use that at all. We're going to use a straight bit, and our bit is 1/4 of an inch, so I'll set that to 0.25. Our depth is going to be minus 0.4 of an inch, and now I'll calculate the V Carve. This basically drew an outline around our part, okay, which is what we want, because we want to carve away all of this other stuff around the tiger. Okay, that'll be our first machining operation. So I can notice right away we're not getting into this section over here by the tail. It's not machining that area because the outline around the tiger is too small, so we have to enlarge that. But let me show you really quickly what we're not going to use this portion of the program right here, this top portion. Okay, we're going to use the bottom portion, the cleanup. We want to use a cleanup file. Okay, so I'm going to set that to the width of the tool, the diameter of the tool, which is 0.25. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to cut only in the X direction. This bottom one we don't need. That's for V-bit cleanups. This is for cutter diameter cleanup. Okay, so I'll calculate the cleanup in only the X direction right now. Okay, so that's not what we want. So the way to fool this system into doing what I want it to do is to come back over here and change this straight bit diameter, but we're not going to actually use this program. The only reason why we have to set it here is so we can set a depth. Okay, we need to be able to set a depth for this. So I'm going to change this from a 1/4 inch tool to a very, very small tool, 0.0001. So that's like a 1/10,000th of an inch tool. Okay, so I'm going to recalculate the V Carve, and there we have it. We have more cleanup taking place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to output this into 2 separate files. First in the X direction, and then I'm going to come back and go in the P, perimeter, which stands for perimeter. So I'll calculate the cleanup at the perimeter, and you'll see we're getting pretty much exactly what we had before by using the top portion of this program. The only difference is there's a 1/10,000th of an inch gap around this thing, which is perfectly acceptable for wood. That I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm just tricking the system into giving me a better cut. So we want to set this up for 40% of the tool for when we do it in the X direction. I'm going to go ahead and calculate the cleanup at 40%, but notice we're getting some areas where it's not being machined. This area at the top of the tail, and around this side of the tail, and around here this body, and around here this body. We're not getting that machined. So what we have to do is we have to enlarge the perimeter, the bounding box for the tiger. Okay, we got to enlarge this outside rectangle for this tiger, for this thing to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this file, and I'm going to go ahead and modify it. Okay, so I'm going to bring that into another free program called CamBam. So here we are in CamBam. Now the first thing I want to do in CamBam is go ahead and select everything, and I'm going to go Edit Center. So that just centers it around my 0, 0, 0 point. Okay, right here, which is, I'm going to use this, I've decided to use this as the home position for the part. So basically all we need to do here is select this perimeter box that's around this thing. We'll just select that all, and just the box around it. And I'm going to go ahead and select this as well because we don't need it, and delete that. Okay, so now I'm going to save this as tiger number 2 and bring that back into F-engrave. I got to close this first. So file, open tiger 2. Okay, so there we have tiger 2 into F-engrave. Now notice this does not have a boundary and it's set on mid-center. Actually, I want to set this to default because that's how we drew it. If you come into this program and have designed something from an outside program, like such as Kanban, which we just did, and change the point of origin, you want to set this to default so you know where you've changed it to. Otherwise, you could just set it to wherever you want it to. You know, in this case, I mean, it's going to be mid-center anyway, but we've changed it, so I can go ahead and put that on default. So now what we want to do is go into our general settings and enable this bounding box, because we wanted to enlarge that box, the machining area, in order to get in there. So right now it's set to like a 1/4 of an inch box. I'm going to set that to 3.375. okay, and just close it. I'm not going to save it, I'm just going to close it. So now when we go to our V Carve settings and do our calculation, we'll leave these settings all alone, calculate the V Carve. You always got to calculate the V Carve first, and then here's what we want. We want this bottom portion of the thing. So I'm going to calculate my cleanup here, and we should, yes, we're machining now completely around the tiger. You see what that did? That just added a box, this box right here. This doesn't actually add a box to the geometry, it just gives it a bounding box. So, you know, to do what we wanted to do with it, which was basically be able to machine completely, because you couldn't get a tool, you couldn't fit it couldn't calculate that because the box was just too small to fit a 1/4 inch tool in here and here and around here in these areas, so we couldn't get that machine. So now we fixed it. So this is the cleanup file we want to save, and then uncheck the X and check the P for perimeter, recalculate the cleanup, and I'm going to save this as my second cleanup file. So the first one is going to be cleanup number 1, and this is cleanup number 2. Alright, so let's have a look at these files. Here we are in NC Corrector again, and it's important that you go ahead and look at your files. So we're looking at the cleanup number 1 file right now, and we'll see how that goes. And it's just going to cut this in a zigzag pattern around the thing. Now I'm already seeing things that I don't want, so this is what NC Corrector is for, to correct your G-code. Alright, because this area, let me just back it up to this area in question that I don't particularly want. See, it's coming up over there and doing a rapid move. Okay, it's rapiding right there, and then it's just going to jump over and rapid right down to there. And I don't really want to do that. I want this to be here, let me zoom in it here for you so you can see it. What I want this to be is go directly from here to here. Okay, so this is an easy thing to code. We have the code right here on the bottom of the screen. It's going to show you that rapid motion right there. So basically I do want to go to this point, okay, but I don't want a rapid motion right here. So I'm just going to take this line of code and we're just going to cut it. I don't want that rapid motion right there. So I'm going to cut that, and we're going to jump to our next line of code, And that's where I want it to go. I want it to go to this position, okay? But I don't want it to wrap it there. See, that's a G0 command. It's gonna go, we're cutting, you know, 0.4 of an inch deep, and I do not want it to rapid, because I'll probably have the thing set to 120 inches per minute for rapid. Okay, I don't want that, so I'm just gonna back up, backspace, change that from a G0 to a G1. Done. Okay, now our next line of code is this line of code right here. This is what used to be our plunge to that position. We don't need it. We're just going to cut it. Okay? We're cutting that. Delete. And then our next line of code, it continues on its merry way, which is what we want. And it's just going to come back here and do its thing. Now here it's jumping to another rapid motion, which again, this is not what I wanted it to do. Okay, so I had to save and reload the file for it to display correctly. So now the next step is to eliminate this rapid motion. See how it's going to jump over there and then jump back down to there. But there's another problem here too, because it's going to cut this and then it's going to cut backwards and then cut that in that direction and then do another rapid. So I want this thing to cut frontwards the whole way. This is the frontwards direction. I want it to cut in the frontwards direction. Alright, so this is going to be like a two-step process. I'm just going to go ahead and eliminate all these rapid motions first. Like this line right here, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Okay? And then we're going to come directly over to here, but that's not really where I want to be. But I need to save that coordinate. Now this is my plunge. This is another line of code that I don't need. Delete it. Alright, then it goes to here. But I want it to feed directly to there. So from there, see that rapid motion line in the dotted? I want it to go to there. Okay, from there to there. So that's a coordinate that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that coordinate. Alright. And where I've eliminated the rapid motion, so after this line of code right here, there's this blank space where we eliminated something. I'm pasting that right there. Alright, so that's going to go now where I want it to. So then, okay, that line right there. I want this line in reverse. Yeah, let me back this up to there. That's the line of code that I want to paste. So I want to copy that line, come back to here. Okay, coming back now to, okay, after this line, I want to paste that line. Boom. Now it's going where I want it to go. Okay, so there we go. But now this line, I want it to feed the other way. Alright, so I'll show you where I want it to go. That coordinate is where I want it to go. Alright, and this coordinate happens to have a feed rate line in it, which we'll remove as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and copy it, and we'll put it into the spot where I need it. So it's going to have to be right after this line. Okay, I'm going to enter a space, boom, and I'm going to paste that code. And now I'm going to eliminate the feed rate. We don't need it. We don't need the feed information. Okay, so let me back up here to see what we've done here. There is good, that's good, over is good, and back is good. But we don't want this to be a rapid motion, so we're going to change this from a G0 to a G1. Right? And let me back this up just a minute, because I think we have a G. No, we're good. Yeah, we don't want any rapid motions. That motion used to be like a rapid motion, but it was on my clearance. So as long as it's on your clearance, it's okay to wrap it through the air. But this is on the floor of the part, so I have a G1 command in there for my feed rate. If it was G0, it would be a rapid motion, okay? So it's basically, when you're editing like this, it's pretty simple. You get your G1 and G0. G0 is rapid, G1 is your feed, and then your XYZ coordinates, and that's it. I mean, it's really, really basic stuff here. Okay. So this command right here, we don't need it to come back to the same spot, so we'll eliminate it. Alright, and we will eliminate the empty space there. This also, again, we eliminate these two lines of code and eliminate the empty space. And we want that position, but we would just want it a different order in the code. So, stepping through this thing, okay, we want it just before this line, okay? So, but what we have just before that line is a plunge. Okay, you can see that it's a G1, so it's feed, but the feed rate is different. It's a plunge feed rate. I set it to 20. Alright, so that line we could delete and back up, and so now it's going there, it's going there. We need that coordinate, so we're just going to, but we need it in a different location. Okay, so we're just going to cut it. Alright, okay, alright, we want it after this line of code. So we're going to enter a space for it to live in and paste it there. Okay, so now you can see it's going over and it's going to the spot where I want it to. After there, that's the spot where I want it to, and now this spot is going to be a different location. It's going to be that location. So that is going to get cut. And we'll back, and we'll eliminate these empty spaces. Back up out of that. So I mean, you can see this program is really useful for when it comes to going ahead and editing code. This is where I want to enter my location right here. So enter a space and paste it there. Boom. And we don't need the feed information, so I'll go ahead and back out of that, backspace out of that, and that's done. So you can see now kind of what we're doing here. Going there, going there, going across to there, and coming down. Now this line of code we don't need, so I'm going to cut it. Cut. And eliminate the empty space of it. and now it's going to continue on its merry way. Perfect. Okay, so those are the modifications that I wanted to do. But let me just check over the code to make sure there's no rapid motions. Like here, we got a rapid motion, so we have to change that from a G0 to a G1. We don't want that to rapid at that depth. Okay, everything else is looking good. Quick sanity check, right? And all of our commands at this point are G1, so we're good. Okay, so now I could just say file save and continue on my merry way. Okay, and it's just going to keep going and going. I'll just let it feed. And okay, so right here I'm noticing a couple of extra rapids. Let me back this up to these two rapids right in question. Okay, that right there. That rapid motion I don't want, but I don't want it to cut away from my part. So, and that's just going to keep feeding in the proper direction. And then it does another rapid there again. I want to check that. Okay, I just don't want it coming out down and plunging into the part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another file, my clean 2. So let me shut off clean 1 and just show you clean 2. Show you what we've done with clean 2. Remember we had the two files. Okay, we had clean 1 and clean 2. This is clean 2. So this is going to show us our outline, okay, with an offset, the tool offset for a 1/4 inch tool, which is 1/8 of an inch, plus the 1/10,000th of an inch. Don't forget about that. All right. So basically, that's the tool path, how it's going to run. So I'm going to overlay this onto it, okay, and here is the rapid motion in question. Right there. Now obviously if I just now let me just back up for just a minute. Remember we had a couple rapid motions that we took care of. Like here it was jumping up and then plunging down to here. Now this is fine. I just have I eliminated the rapid, okay, and we had a couple other problems here where it was rapiding to here, then coming back to here, and then like rapiding over, and I didn't want all that. Okay, so I'm back up to that position. Well, to show you what we fixed here. Boom, it's going to just feed over to this position, but I'm not touching anything else, so I'm good. Okay, and then it's going to do my regular feed, which we fixed to the position, and then go on its merry way. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so I'll zoom out and let that play to my point in contention. Right here, this area right here, I don't want this rapid motion, okay, because I'm using a bit that's not capable of center cutting. So then it's going to come and plunge down into the part right here and then continue on its merry way. So I want to eliminate this line of code right here. So let me show you how that kind of looks. But as you can see, because if we look in the top view of this thing, that is going to cut through. If I just eliminate that part and go from here to here, that's not going to be good. So what I am going to have to do is to modify this, is do a little bit of modification in the X direction. And I'll show you what I mean right now. First off the bat, let's tilt this so you can see it. And I'm gonna close the little light bulb for the clean toolpath, clean number 2 toolpath. So we're on clean number 1 here, and we're going to modify this only. So first of all, the rapid motion we don't want. Okay, So that line gets deleted. And then we're moving to that position will save, but we're going to modify that position, okay? Then we got our plunge motion, but we don't need that. So we're going to delete that. So this line right here is going to have to be modified. Alright, let me just eliminate the spaces between this so it'll run without a space between it. Okay, so now I'm going to jump back to my top view, zoom in on this so you can see, and then I'm going to enable the clean cut. So now if you notice, that's going to be my feed, and right now it's set to a G0, but I'm going to change it to a G1. Alright, so it's a feed command. That would feed directly through my part. So this X location where it feeded to 2, that location right there, that line of code, we want to change that X location. Alright, now that's a negative X location, so we want to make it a greater negative, or I don't know how to say this, we want to make it more negative. Okay, so it's right now it's at 2607, point 2607, so we're going to make it like point 5607 and see what that does to me. Now you can see how that updated the line. Okay, but we're still cutting through my part here. If I zoom in on this, you'll see we're still cutting through the chin of that tiger, and I don't want to cut through his chin. So we're going to up the ante from 5607 to 7607, and now we can see it has updated to a safe area for my clean cut is in green here, and this is my roughing pattern. So we're good on that now. Okay, we've solved the problem. Okay, so now the toolpath is just going to continue on its merry way until the next point of contention, which is down here by the paw. Now if I zoom in on this, what I want to do here is, I'm going to tilt this up so you can see it. I want to eliminate that little rapid motion because I want to eliminate the plunge. Again, I can't plunge with this bit. It's not a center cutting bit. So let me back this up, and we're going to go through this same procedure basically again. We're coming to this point, there's a rapid line. We're going to delete that rapid. Boom. Now it's going to go over here, but it's not feeding. So I'm going to change it from a G0, which is a rapid command, to a G1 to make it feed. And now I'm feeding right through his toe. So I got to change my position. So let me set this for top orthographic view so we can see in more detail exactly how I want to modify this. Okay, let me just eliminate this empty space right there. So as you can see, all we need to do is bring this point back to here to like a safe point. Okay, change that X coordinate. So back to that line, this line, okay. Okay, not this one, this one. And that's at X minus 2611. We'll make it X minus 4611. Let's see what that does now. See, now I'm avoiding the toe. Okay, so we're good. We can probably come a little closer on it. Make it X3611. Yeah, I'm coming kind of close to it. We'll leave it at 4. Alright. We'll leave it at 4. It's fine. See that? And that's as simple as you get. I mean, boom, we're done. I'm going to go File, just hit the Save button, zoom out of this, and let the rest of the code go on its merry way here. Get into 3D. And then it's just going to wrap it, and that's my end of the program. So that's it. That's how you just modify code right on the fly with this G-code NC Corrector program. This is an invaluable tool. I mean, it's great because you can flip things around, you can look at things in different directions. You know, it's like boom, boom, boom. It works really nice. You know, it's got a space where you can modify your code. I mean, we've done all of our modifications and we're not hitting anything. It's, you know, it's all looking good. Okay. Okay, it comes close, but it's not hitting nothing there. So, I mean, yeah, that's actually how it spit out the code. Same here. But, yeah, everything's looking good. Okay. We got all of our roughing within the parameters of our cleanup there. So that's about as easy as it gets. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and save this file and reload the program so it doesn't display that area that we just fixed. Open up our file, and there's our file. It's looking real good, nice and clean, no rapids where I don't want them. Everything's nice, the code's running smoothly. More importantly, the machine is going to run smoothly. Okay, I don't want that bit plunging in and stuff like causing havoc. Not that it's going to really do that. I mean, we're cutting through wood. You probably cut through the freaking thing with zero spindle speed. But no, just kidding. But yeah, seriously, that's how you clean up your code real quick and easy, I think, you know. And there's not a big learning curve to this. There's nothing to, I mean, what do you need to know? A G0 is a rapid and a G1 is a feed rate. I mean, boom. What more do you, I mean, how easy does it get? I mean, you could look at some of these more complex controllers that got a lot of stuff going on. This is as easy as it gets, folks. Your XYZ coordinates, your G0 and your G1. Boom. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's like as simple as that. So that's looking lovely. We fixed our code. So what's our next move with this thing? I think the next thing what we need to do is, okay, so here's what we need to do. We need to add a ramping operation to this because, as you know, we're not using a center cutting bit. So I'm just going to rewind the program and show you what it does. First, we're going to jump up to our clearance and then we're going to wrap it over. Alright, at this point I need to save. Okay, so I will copy that line. Alright, then the next thing it's going to do is it's going to go all the way and plunge all the way down to 0.4. I don't want it to do that. I want it to ramp down to that final depth. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up to this line right here and modify it. Instead of coming down to minus 0.4, I'm going to come down to 0.01. Okay, so just off the part, and now my next line is going to take me over. Alright, and if you touch that line behind it, it updated on the video for you. So now all I want to do is go back to where I was before, this line of code which we already copied. Okay, so I'm just going to enter in a space and paste it. Okay, but the previous line I want to add a depth to it. Okay, So I'm going to take this line right here and copy it and paste it right there. So what I want to do is just modify it. So I'll make it a negative value first of all, and then I'm going to come in and make it 0.1 of an inch. So I'm going to ramp down 0.1 of an inch, and I'm going to do this successively. Okay. So this is what we thought was going to be a plunge the previous operation, all the way down to minus 0.4 of an inch. It has a feed of a plunge feed of 20, but that could just be rapid as far as I'm concerned right now. I'm going to leave it where it is. It doesn't really matter because we're off the part anyway. So it could be a rapid if you were playing it risky. If you're a daring CNC machinist, you might want to put a rapid motion in there. But I'm not going to risk life and limb over it. Alright, so the next motion is going to go back to where we came from. Alright, so now basically all I got to do is copy these 2 lines of code. Alright, yeah, the feed information I don't need, but I'm going to leave it there and copy both lines. Alright, well, I'll tell you what, we'll just copy this line of code right here and enter it in to a happy space after, paste it right there. And now I'm going to modify my Z to go another 1/10 of an inch down. Okay, and then I want to go back to where I started. So this time I'm going to copy both lines, but first I'm going to fix this from a G0 rapid motion to a G1. Okay, so now I'm all set. Everything's set up to feed. So let me just back this up for you just for a second to show you what I did. So we're coming down to there, we're going to ramp down to there, and then come back to there, feeding. Okay, then it's going to ramp down again, and this is where I'm going to copy the lines, the 2 lines of code. Copy, enter a space for them to live in, right here, paste them, modify my Z to -3. Alright, enter in a space, paste them there, and this is my final depth. Now I'm going to change that to 0.4. Okay, so rewinding again all the way to the top, and we'll just let this play itself out. See that? See the ramping, the quick ramping motion that we've done there? And I'll step through it so you can see it in slow-mo. So it's going to wrap it over here. I'm going to take it down just over the part to 0.01. Now we're ramping. Alright, and I'll show you on the side viewer how that looks. See the ramp across there? Alright. Next move, we're just going to come right back. And it's going to be cutting material, realize that. And it's going to cut down, ramp down another 1/10 of an inch. And then come back, and then ramp down another 1/10 of an inch, and come back, and then ramp and cut down another 1/10 of an inch. Okay, now at this point I could take it back just to complete that cut and to my final depth, but I think I'm going to just let it go at this point. I'm not really too concerned about it. Frankly, I should be able to cut 3 times the width of the tool in wood without difficulty. Okay, and I've seen machines do this at 2,000 inches per minute. Alright, we got cutting tools today that will, believe me, they'll cut. So at this point I'm going to switch to top view and zoom in just a little bit so you can see there, and we'll step through the program, and this is where the program begins. Okay, so if you look at that on an isometric view, maybe there's a better angle, we can have a look at it. Okay, so we can see how this is all plays out. It does the ramping and then it continues on its merry way. Alright, so yeah, that's kind of what we wanted to get accomplished there. Just that initial ramp, and then it's going to continue on its merry way without any difficulty. And when you get back to over here, as you step closer and closer, now the diameter of this cutter is 1/4 of an inch, okay? So when it gets to this point right here, it's going to come into contact with a little bit extra wood. So what? I mean, the thing is meant to cut, alright, and that's what it's going to do. And then it just rapids up out of the part and then it's done. So that program is done. Okay, so that's all I want to show you. Basically a quick little ramping routine. So ramps safely down into the part with a non-center cutting bit. Okay, this is just a El Cheapo Harbor Freight tool bit. Okay, so it's a straight. It's a pretty much of a straight. It's not a helical end mill. And I guess you could use it on a plunge router. You know, you probably could plunge with it, but for the sake of, you know, saving, I got a 5-bit set for like $7 or whatever at Harbor Freight, you know, so I'm going to ramp it into the material, be real gentle with it, you know, take it real carefully with that thing. Alright, so yeah, isn't that neat? The ramping routine. Bet you didn't know that you could do that so easily. So that's it, ramping. I mean, I wish I could go on for days with this, but this video is getting a little long in the tooth. You know?